In this video, we'll create a video landing page website using HTML, CSS, and Bootstrap. Okay guys, so before we get started, I want to thank all of you that subscribed and liked the last video that I put out. If you can do the same by liking this video, I would really appreciate it. So the last few videos that I put out have covered the theme from my Udemy course, and the first video that we did was covering the original Nuno theme, and then we covered the image slider version, and in this video we're going to cover the video landing page version, but we're going to use a different background video from the actual Udemy course, which you can find a link to in the video description. Now, as you can see in the background, we have our video landing page here on my computer, but it also works on mobile phones with iOS and the iPhone, for example, which is really great because it's not that easy with video landings. All right, so at the top you see we have the navbar with the Nuno logo that we've been using, and then we have the video landing page, which is going to stay fixed in the background position. And then we have some content displaying on top of it, including the Get Started button, which will link to just some dummy content down here that links to my Udemy course for the Nuno theme. And as we size the web page down, once we get to 768 pixels, the heading and button content displaying on top of the video background will resize, but the video background itself will keep playing no matter what width the screen is. Okay, so let's go ahead and move over to Sublime Text now, and I want to show you what you'll need to get started. So in the description of this video, before we actually get to Sublime Text, let me show you. There's going to be a free download called the Nuno Video Starter Files. So this is going to include all the Bootstrap files that are necessary to participate in the tutorial, as well as index.html and style.css, which I'm going to have open in Sublime Text, the free text editor in the background here. And then I'm also going to have index.html open with Google Chrome. And the rest of the content here, we're going to go over as we're building the video background website. So don't worry about that, but go ahead and pause the video if you need to get those files from the video description, and then we can get started in our text editor. So let's start from the top of index.html and cover what's already included for us here. So we have our doc type HTML, then the actual HTML tag with the language English declared, and then inside of the head section we have all the important information for the browser to tell it how we want the website to display, such as our standard character type with UTF-8. Then to control our website on mobile, we have viewport content with device width initial scale 1, followed by the title of our website, which we'll find in the tab here at the top in Google Chrome, where it says Nuno responsive Bootstrap theme. And then underneath that we have a link to the Bootstrap CSS file. And then we have a link to the style.css file that we also have open in Sublime Text, which we can see the tab for at the top here. And then the last style sheet we're linking to is fixed.css inside of the CSS folder. And what that does is that's going to take care of some really specific CSS to make it so the video background landing page can display on iOS or Apple cell phones and devices. So at the bottom of the body section, we have a link to our script files, starting with the jQuery file. And then we have a link to the Bootstrap.js file, which is inside of the Bootstrap folder here, and then the JS folder, as you can see right here. And then the CSS folder is in here as well, which I didn't mention when we were covering the Bootstrap min CSS file from the head section earlier. Then, of course, we have the logo image at the top, and also inside of the starter files, we have the stars background video, that we'll be referencing as we go through the tutorial. So here, also included in the starter files, is the dummy content linking to my Udemy course, and then we have a little bit of CSS for that layout that we see right here. It's just basically a centered Bootstrap column with some heading text, paragraph text, and then a button. Okay, and then as you can see, the Get Started button will link us to that ID for that section there. Also, inside of the style.css file, we have all the different Bootstrap breakpoints, and we're just going to be using the medium screen breakpoint at 768 pixels, but you can use that as a reference for future websites that you want to build if you want to stick with Bootstrap. So let's go ahead and move back over to index.html and drop down underneath the body section, and let's take care of the little navbar that's at the top of the website and includes the logo that we're seeing. So we're going to use the HTML5 nav tag for this, and then we're going to reference some Bootstrap classes. So we'll start with navbar, and in case you want to add links to your navigation later on here, we're going to say navbar-dark, so that way the links show up in a light color because we're going to make the background color dark. And then the last class that we'll add to the navigation will be fixed-top, which will keep the navigation fixed at the top of the page, and then we can close out the navigation. So if we go over to it, we're not going to see anything appear yet because we're going to give it its own background color. Normally you'd just say bg-dark as a class to give it a dark background color to start with. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add the Nuno logo that we're seeing at the top there, and we'll start that off inside of the nav tag with an anchor tag. So we'll say a class, and the class we're going to give it is called navbar-brand, which is standard to add logos to Bootstrap navigations. And then to center it, we're going to use the class mx-auto as opposed to ml-auto, for example, which will make it off to the right. And then for the actual link, we're just going to leave it blank for right now. But inside of it, we're going to add the image, which if you remember from the starter files is just nuno.png. And then to keep with W3 standards, with W3 validator, we'll just say alt, and we can leave that blank and close out our A tag. So now if we go and refresh, we have the logo kind of appearing for us, but since it has a white background to it, we're not able to see much of it. So let's move over to style.css and add a little styling so we can see the navbar before we get to the video background part of the website. So if we go over to Google Font and do a search for Google Font Lato, I'm just going to select that font and then hit Family Selected, Customize, and let's give it a bold shade. And then let's go down to Import, and I'm just going to grab this @import URL to add the Google font to our style sheet here. And then let's go ahead and style the body of the website. So we're just going to say overflow X hidden to make sure that no content overflows outside of the page. And then let's go ahead and declare our font family that we added from Google Font with the Lato font. And then I'm just going to give the text a color, which we see with the white background here, just to make it a little bit softer than a black shade, with a dark sort of blue-gray with the hex value 505962. Alright, so once we've done that, now we can move on to styling the navbar. So let's go ahead and reference the navbar class that we added here with .navbar, since it's a class rather than an ID where we use a hashtag. And then we'll say background, and then red, green, blue, alpha, and we're going to give it all black with all zeros, and then we'll make it 40% transparent with 0.6. Okay, so there we have it, except for our logo's kind of big. So we're going to make that half the size by referencing the navbar-brand class here. And we're going to say height to rem. And then we'll also need to reference the image. Okay, so there we have it with our navbar and the logo displaying how we want. So let's drop down to the HTML for the actual video background just underneath the nav tag. So we're going to reference a couple of classes here that are used in the fixed.css file that I referenced earlier while we were going over the starter files. And as I said, that file is going to take care of some really specific CSS for us to get the video background displaying on mobile. So we're going to say div class video-background, and then inside of that we're going to have a second class called video-wrap, and then we'll have a third div, but we're going to make this an ID that's just called video. And then we can drop down and close out these divs. Okay, and then inside of that we'll have our actual video tag. So we're going to say video, and we're going to give this an ID that we're just going to call bgvid. So this isn't a Bootstrap class, nor are any of these video class or div references. Now, for the background image, we're going to need to add the source for it. So we're going to use the source tag here. And then for the actual source, we'll reference the stars.mp4 video file from the starter files, which, if you remember, is this file right here, which is just the sky on repeat with the stars. And then we'll say type video/mp4. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh in Google Chrome with the file that we've been working on. And as we can see, there we have the video in the background, but it's still, and it's not moving yet. So what we're going to need to do is add some attributes to the video tag here. So we're going to start with autoplay, and then we'll say loop and muted. And with those, if we refresh, there we have the background video playing, but we're going to need to add one more attribute to get it to display on mobile or tablets. And that's going to be plays in line. So without that, you're going to have it have some trouble with it playing across as many devices as you might want it to play across. Okay, so now that we have our video background added, what we're going to do is add some additional styling to it so you can customize it later. And so we can add sort of a dark overlay on top of it to get the white text appearing and stand out better. So let's go ahead and reference the div class video background. So in style.css, we'll reference the class, and then we're going to say position relative, but the actual video background, if you go to the fix.css file, you'll see position fixed for the video tag itself, which you can change to relative if you don't want it to stay fixed. But we're going to go ahead and give it a width of 100%, and then we're going to say minimum height 100 vertical height to make sure that it stays at a full screen landing page. And it's subtle, but it did reposition the background image, or background video rather, a little bit there. So if we said absolute here, for example, it's just going to stay sort of fixed and it won't allow for the scrolling. But if we say relative, we can scroll up, as you see right there. Okay, so let's add sort of a background overlay to it to make it a little bit darker and have our white text pop out more. So we're going to say background-color, and then red, green, blue, alpha, And then we're going to make this 100% black also, but we'll give it an 80% transparency with 0.2. So we just have 20% of the black showing up. And it's a little bit darker now. You might not be able to tell it unless we make it extra dark with 0.5, for example, there. But we want it to be just subtle to get the white text to show up more. So let's go ahead and move back over to index.html and add the caption information that sits on top of the video background with the headings and the button. So we're going to go ahead and put those inside of a class that we're just going to call div class caption. And then we can close it out. And inside of that, for the first bit of text, we'll have it in a heading 1. And to save some time, I'll just copy it and paste it here. So as we know, heading 1s are the largest and heading 6 are the smallest. So this one is going to be sort of medium in size with a heading 3 for the text in the middle. And then for the button underneath that, we'll use an A tag and we'll say class btn. And then these are Bootstrap button classes, btn-outline-light, which will make it sort of see-through button with the light white outline. And then we'll make this a large button with btn LG as opposed to MD or SM for small and medium. And then we're going to link this to the course ID down here. So we'll just start with a hashtag for the ID and then say course. And then of course we'll need the text inside of the button. So I'll just write get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and save it. And there we have our text appearing, but it's appearing underneath the landing page and it's not centered. So we can take care of that with text-center here. And it's kind of hard to see the button right now, but let's go ahead and reposition it in style.css. So the first thing that we're going to reference is the caption class. And we're going to say position absolute so we can place it wherever we want on the page. And what we're going to do now is we're going to make it appear sort of in the middle of the page on load. So we're going to say top 38%. And then it's kind of off to the left. So we'll need to give it a width of 100%. So it centers full page. Okay. And then we can add our color to both of the headings using the caption class. So let's go ahead and just say color white. So color white, or you can use the hex value FFF for white. So hashtag FFF. Okay, so now we have it displaying in white, and let's go ahead and just add a little bit of styling to the headings and the button themselves. So we'll say dot caption and then H1 for the first bit of text, and we'll give it a font size of 3 rem. And if you're unfamiliar with rem, that's a standard metric with Bootstrap. 1 rem is equal to 16 pixels, which is the default font size for Google Chrome, for example. And then we're going to say font weight 700 because we added that to the Google font at the top. We can use that font weight for bold text. And then let's go ahead and space the characters out a little bit with letter spacing 0.2 rem, which is a little over 3 pixels in size. And then let's add some text shadow to make the white text pop a little more. So we'll say 0.1 rem horizontal, 0.1 rem vertical, and then we'll give it a blur radius of 0.8 rem, and then we'll just say black. Okay, so now if we refresh, there we have the text shadow around the heading 1, and it looks just like the original until we get to the spacing underneath it. So let's say padding bottom 1 rem or 16 pixels. And then let's move on to the heading 3. So we're going to use most of the same changes we did to the heading 1. We'll just add different sizes. So we'll say font size 2 rem. And then for the text shadow, we'll also use 0.1 rem horizontal and vertical, and then 0.5 rem for our blur radius and the color black. Okay, so that looks good until, once again, the padding underneath it. So instead of padding 1 rem, we're going to say padding bottom 1.6 rem to create a little more space for the button. And let's go ahead and check, and then we can reference the class for the button. So we're going to go ahead and reference the btn-lg. You can also reference btn outline light if you just want to target that, or both classes. So we're just going to say border width medium to make it a little more of a bold border, and then border radius 0 to take away the rounded corners. And then we'll increase the font size a little bit to 1.1 rem. And then the original has a little bit more spacing around the text. So we'll say padding 0.6 rem top bottom and 1.3 rem left right. Alright, so that looks just like the original here until we size it down and we see that our headings and the button haven't changed in size, nor has the heading for the course section underneath the landing page. So what we're going to do is let's drop down underneath the course section CSS, and we're going to reference these same 3 classes. So we can copy and paste it, or we can type it out. So we're going to say at media, and then in parentheses max width 768 pixels. You could also do 767 for max width to match up with the Bootstrap breakpoints. And if you're pasting in these classes, let's get rid of the font weight, the text shadow, and that's good for the heading 1. And then for the heading 3, let's get rid of the text shadow. And for the button, we'll get rid of the border radius and the border width, which will stay the same as the full width version. Okay, so for the heading 1, let's go ahead and resize the font to 1.4 rem, which is about half the size. And that looks good. And then let's decrease the letter spacing to 0.15. And then the padding bottom to 0.5 rem instead of 1 rem. And that looks good. And let's move on to the heading 3 next. And let's just resize the font to 1.1 rem. And then the padding on the bottom to 1.2 rem. All right. And then let's decrease the font size a little bit for the button here and just make it a plain 1 rem. And then we'll make the padding 1 rem left right, 0.5 rem top bottom. And that looks just like the original until we get down to that heading if we want to change it for the course section down here. So let's go ahead and change that. We'll need to reference the col MD8 and then the heading 1. And then let's just change the font size to 1.7 rem. Right, and then if we refresh and we are to toggle back and forth, we won't be able to tell a difference from the original video background landing page. So that does it. I want to thank you for watching. Please remember to check out my Bootstrap Udemy course in the video description, where you'll learn how to build an advanced website using Bootstrap. And please remember to like this video, subscribe, share it, and turn on your notifications. And then I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.